Hi, this is Ray Manzarek of The Doors. You're listening to the Allan Handelman Show. You're going to hear some great talk. You're going to hear some great conversation. You're going to hear some great music. Check it out.
It's great to have you back. Coming up a little later, who is giving you the most misinformation? We're going to talk to Bill Adair from PolitiFact. It's coming up in just a bit as we continue with investigative journalist Greg Palast, always provocative, great guest on the show, and his latest book getting unbelievably great reviews, Billionaires and Ballot Bandits, How to Steal an Election in 9 Easy Steps.
Now, is Romney the only guy getting billions from billionaires who cranked the public system? No. If you're a Democrat, plug your ears. We got the same story on the other side. But, you know, right now, obviously, Romney's really putting the billions in the bag right now with these guys. But both are doing it. Unfortunately, that's one of the problems here. You got both sides doing it, and therefore there's not a lot of screaming and hollering about it.
Yeah, in a minute I want to talk about the Koch brothers and an interesting story involving a deal they worked with Clinton. But as far as this misinformation, and you know, as Clinton said in his speech, called it fibs, whatever you want to call it, lies, misinformation, it is unbelievable the amount of it. I recently had people from factcheck.org on. The amount of misinformation, straight out lies, just continues, but yet it doesn't seem to have any effect on their base. Why is that, Greg?
People want to believe. They don't want to believe that they're being... No one likes to believe that there are strings all over them and little wires running into their brains telling them how to think. And that no one wants to feel manipulated or that you cast a vote which is thrown away. No one wants to actually... People talk about it, but it's hard to say we've been taken for a ride here. And I think that's one of the things. So they distract people with things like, abortion and condoms, and if you're a nun, can you get contraception under Obamacare, and all this stuff.
Every election.
Which, is not going to really change no matter who's president, right?
Right.
And so it's all this fun and games and distraction, but the big issues and where the money's going. And we talk about, they talk about the auto bailout, but they're not talking about no one wanted to talk about who actually got the money, and Obama's people don't want to, interestingly, and don't want to talk about it either. I'm investigating that, and I have some ideas on that too.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want to absorb everything you're saying. Continue. I think I interrupted you.
Well, no. All I was saying is that, first of all, keep in mind that Obama wants to talk about the great, wonderful bailout. The last thing he wants to do is say, by the way, the whole thing was about to go down in flames unless I paid these guys, these pirates, every bit of booty that they wanted. I mean, that wouldn't look very good. And so, that he couldn't fess up to. So the last thing he's going to do is say, oh, Romney's guys took me for a ride for billions, and now you're all paying for it. That wouldn't exactly qualify him for another term, would it?
No. So he just kept, even though he was done in by the other side, he doesn't want to, I understand that. Yeah. Just talk about the Koch brothers and the deal, because I associate the Koch brothers with conservatives and Republicans.
Yes.
He made a deal with Clinton, you said.
Yes, actually, David Koch, he was not, these were not registered Republicans. Koch hated the Republicans. David ran against Reagan for president on a Libertarian Party ticket years before. They don't like the Republicans, and then he was going to run for governor as a Democrat. So it's not about party. They're for themselves. And one thing that happened is that the Kochs got caught. I was involved in this investigation with the FBI, and you'll see in Billionaires and Ballot Bandits, there's something called Target 67C. The Koch, Charles Koch was facing indictment for stealing oil from a native reservation, from an Indian reservation, the Osage in Oklahoma, personally, because he personally ordered it. Skimming oil. He's already a billionaire. He's ordering it. By the way, we had him wired to the FBI, and he said, someone asked, why are you stealing from these Indians? You're already a billionaire. He said, because I want all of it. He says, I want my fair share, and that's all of it. That's a quote from the tape. It's in the book. Now, so he's about to face an indictment. On the other hand, plus he was making illegal campaign contributions through Koch Industries before Citizens United. That was a crime. Well, okay, so you think, well, Clinton's going to bust him. No. two things. Number one, Clinton had his own billionaires, the Riyadi family of Indonesia, which had given Clinton $1 million. Now, at that time, again, before Citizens, foreigners couldn't give money. By the way, now they can. People don't understand. That's another problem. This, for the first time in American history, foreigners may donate in our campaigns, and they have.
Jeez.
So, but at that time, it was illegal. So you had two illegalities, and so Clinton really could have gotten impeached. Senator Fred Thompson, remember Mr. He went on to do Law and Order as the prosecutor. Well,
right.
actually, he actually thought he was a prosecutor for a minute. And he was going to nail Clinton, and he was going to nail the Republicans. He was actually fairly honest senator. That's probably why he's not there. A Republican, decent guy. And then he got straightened out. Trent Lott came to him, and I have all the information from the inside. No one has ever denied it, the Clintons, anyone. I've given them plenty of chances. The Clintons and the Kochs, the Republicans for the Kochs, traded their billionaires. You don't do the Kochs, they told Clinton. We don't do the Riyadis. And that meant that both parties are off the hook. Both of their sets of billionaires are off the hook. And ironically, that's how we ended up with the impeachment of Clinton over a sticky dress, because they were going to go after something real, and that's all they had left.
I know, and he was so preoccupied with Monica Lewinsky and all that stuff, as you said, he let a lot of things fall through his hands. He didn't pay attention. He didn't have the time. He just had his mind on other things.
His mind below his belt. But the thing is that's the problem, is that they both have hands dirty. This time, though, and by the way, Clinton, where did Clinton come from, right? He was some guy from Dogpatch, Arkansas. I mean, everyone says, oh, he's brilliant, blah, blah, but, he was a nobody, a young nobody, when he became president. And it began because his entire base for running was the Democratic Leadership Council, kind of very conservative Democrats who thought that we should begin moving away from the FDR New Deal program.
Mm-hmm.
That was started, and they were very anti-regulation, saying there's too many regulations, very much a kind of soft Republican line. That was started with $100,000 from the Koch brothers. In other words, the Koch brothers have been putting in money where they need it into the Democratic Party, and then they hired the chairman of the Democratic Party, Bob Strauss, is on their payroll as one of their lawyers. Bob Strauss, the chairman of the Democratic Party, ex-chairman. So, yes, the Koch brothers right now are putting in, literally raising $250 million to defeat Obama. But when they've needed to and wanted to, or had a financial reason to do so, they put money into Democrats when and how they need it.
Investigative journalist Greg Palast, his latest book, Billionaires and Ballot Bandits, How to Steal an Election in 9 Easy Steps. We just have about 4 or 5 minutes here, and I want to talk about what we need to keep our eyes on. Is it going to be voter machine tampering this time? What are some of the things that they're going to attempt to do? With your research and investigative and your network of sources, just unbelievable. What are they going to do?
You're going to find your name disappeared from the voter rolls. They've gotten this purging with these supercomputers, the Koch's Themis and Rove's data trust, especially. The game is now knock out the voters. You're a non-citizen. You're a criminal. You're insane. In Florida, if you're insane, unless you're the governor, you can't vote. Really. And 22 million people have been purged from the voter rolls in the last 2 years. So you think you're registered, you better think again. At ballot-bandits.org, by the way, you can download for free, no charge. You don't have to get the book, but which I hope you do, especially the comic book. But you can download 7 ways to beat the ballot bandits. And number 3 is re-register. You say, well, I'm registered already, Greg. No. There's a very good chance. This happened. My own research assistant, Zach, went in to vote, and they said he was he was an inactive voter. He says, I've been voting in every election from PTA president upward. And they said no. So he lost his vote. And so what I recommend right now, after you go to ballot-bandits.org, get the book, get the 7 ways to beat the ballot bandits, go online to to your state secretary of state and make sure you are registered to vote under your name and that there's no asterisk, missing space, or some junk there, so that you're not ambushed on Election Day, as 22 million people will be.
And then when you straighten it all out, it is too late. That's what's amazing about this. There's really no ramification for these people.
Yeah, well, that's what, I mean, Bobby Kennedy wrote the introduction book, you know, he's a law professor. He said, God, you should go to jail for this stuff. Well, yeah, who's going to bust him?
Yeah.
It is the government officials themselves who are often deep up to their behinds in this stuff, and that's one of the problems. And then you go in and your name's missing, and you say, oh, here's a provisional ballot. That's another thing to look out for. A placebo ballot. It's like writing your vote on Kleenex. Most of those don't get counted because they'll say, oh, if your name's missing from the voter rolls, just fill out this provisional ballot. No, you better go scream or get your name on the voter rolls, because if you fill out the ballot, then they take it back later, and some partisan shark says, well, they're not registered. It doesn't matter that you should be registered or that they removed your name.
You're not on the list.
You're not on the list, so your provisional ballot gets thrown in the garbage. 1.4 million provisional ballots in 2008 were thrown in the garbage on dumb technical grounds, and I think it'll be double this year. So
double this year.
You know, protect yourself. Ballot-bandit.org. It's like a ballot condom that you can get.
ballot-bandits.org. It's a great book. Just got my copy, and as I said, I can't wait to devour it. Very humorous, but full of facts. Scary stuff. I just think it's... I think what you're doing is very important. Do you think the mainstream media, as we get into the debates, are going to bring this stuff up?
Yeah, you know what? It kind of drips in their dumb, half-baked manner. You'll hear something on National Petroleum Radio about ID, and one side says this and one side says that, but they're not looking at the numbers. They're not looking at how the game's played. They're not looking at these databases. They're not getting into it because they're part of that game themselves. You know, I mean, these billionaires are not that dumb. They figured out that they have to buy the outlets too.
Last question, let you go. If you are one of those, 8 states now that have voter ID laws, is there anything to reverse that, change that? Is there enough time to do anything?
Yeah, I would get your ID and make sure. And I'll tell you why. Because other than a couple states where the government can challenge it, those are only states that were affected by the Civil Rights Act. So states like Indiana, where the nuns got knocked out, I would check your registration, make sure that you have ID that matches your registration, that they both have that middle initial or the junior or whatever.
Right.
And if you don't, you better go get some ID that's all fixed up and pretty, or correct your registration, because they're going to say, wait, you're not John D. Jones. They say, yeah, but I am John David Jones. Yeah, but here it says John D. Jones. There's no David in it.
God.
And I kid you not, they have a right to take your vote. Don't let them do it.
Don't let them do it. Greg Palast, investigative journalist, another great book and an impact that I hope is going to be felt for many years on this one. Billionaires and Ballot Bandits, the latest one.
Thank